This is a video reflection on an interview that I conducted just a couple days ago of a video I posted about somebody who's always near my school, always out in the front, and he ended up knocking on my door. And then I ended up conducting like a spontaneous interview about his experiences in jail. And this is my reflection based on that interview. You're welcome to take a look at that original video, which was posted just a couple days ago, and then that will give you, you know, the background information to what I'm speaking about. But my reflection on it. I think there's a lot of things I wanted to say, or that I could share about my ideas about the interview and his experiences. For one, I think it's a sad thing, based on that individual in particular, because I don't feel, for as long as I've seen him and known him, I don't see him as a violent person at all. That person I feel is, he's a very nice guy, always saying hi, and he's just smoking all the time, and doesn't disrespect me or nothing like that, and he's not a violent person. But something that's clear to me before getting to know him, before him even sharing with me this information, is that I know that there's something mentally wrong, something psychologically wrong. Not severely, but there's something wrong, where he's just not all there, just more like slower, and basically he's somebody that needs like mental health assistance. And I think that's the common problem in the societies, where people that need help, like mentally or psychologically, they're not given this help, and then they're just basically thrown in jail. There's a difference between somebody who commits a crime knowing that they're committing a crime, like they're intelligent people, but then they still commit the crime even though they know between right and wrong. And then there's somebody who commits a crime not knowing any better, because his mind is just not psychologically developed enough to really understand why he shouldn't do something compared to something else. So another example would be somebody like Lance Armstrong. He knew that he was doing something completely wrong. He just knew that he shouldn't be doing it, but he still did it. So there's a difference between somebody like that, and there's a difference between somebody who just they live in a bubble. They don't really talk to that many people, and they don't know much about the law, and then they ended up talking on the phone while driving, and then they ended up getting a ticket for talking on the phone, but they didn't know it was against the law. They just didn't know, they just make mistakes because they're just misinformed, or they're slower in the head, or whatever the case may be. Just like in school right now, there's children that are average, that are in the school with the regular classes, and then there's kids that are above average, which excel beyond the average students, and everything just is so easy for them. But then there is the kids that are below average, which are considered the kids with the special needs. And these kids need special education teachers. They get separated from the regular class and then get put into different classes that are for slower children. They get put in separate buses, and they're treated differently. But once these children turn adult and they get out there in the real world, what ends up happening is that you got the average kids that turn adults that are in the working world, and then a lot of times these children that are like with the special needs, that are maybe mentally challenged, they're put in jail. Because then they make mistakes in life, especially when they don't have the guidance of their parents or of a responsible adult to guide them properly. They end up committing mistakes and they end up getting put in jail, or they're homeless. And I see that. I think it's very sad. I see that this person in particular, he's not a bad person. He just made a mistake. And because he made a mistake, and he doesn't have much money, he doesn't know how to defend himself with a qualified lawyer, and he doesn't know how to protect his own rights. He doesn't have the knowledge and intelligence to know to stay silent. He's the type of person that will just admit to wrongdoing willfully, opposed to just keeping his mouth shut and then forcing the police to prove that he did something wrong. And then if they can't prove that he did something wrong, then he stays free. But because he doesn't have the intelligence to understand that, hey, I need to keep my mouth shut and not admit to any wrongdoing, now he ends up going to jail. And people that have money and people that are intelligent, they're less likely to be in jail, because people that are intelligent know that if they do something wrong, that they're never going to admit to this wrong, and that they're going to have to, they're going to force, these police officers to prove that they've done something wrong. And that in itself is going to make it very difficult for the police to do that. And in addition, people that have money know how to hire lawyers to protect them, so then they don't go to jail. But people that are poor and people that are not intelligent, they don't know their rights, they don't know the law, they don't know anything. In many cases, they end up in jail for the pettiest thing, for even a non-violent offense, and their entire life is pretty much ends up becoming ruined. And it's sad when you see that. I can't help but feel bad for them. Because once you get something on your record, especially if it's a felony, that, those offenses could stay on your record permanently. And you could be an entirely changed man, but when you try to seek for employment, these people will find this information and they'll always hold it against you. They'll never forgive you. And that's one of one of the major downfalls, of the law, is that it's really unforgiving. You're allowed to make mistakes when you're younger, before you turn to an adult, because everything gets erased. You're given a second chance, not just a second chance, but a third chance. Like, you pretty much could do a lot of bad things when you're young, and nothing stays permanent on your record. But once you turn an adult, you make one mistake, it could ruin your entire life. You could be 40 years old and there's something that you did at the age of 18 where you ended up in jail for a few years, and that mistake could haunt you for the rest of your life, because you might not ever be able to find any employer that's gonna trust you and want to hire you into a position when they've already judged you from that mistake that you made over 20 years ago. So I think what it really boils down to is just proper guidance from parents, from teachers. Like, it's like extremely important that before you turn an adult, you really have a deep understanding of, what the law is and what things you could do and what things you shouldn't do. And basically make the corrective behavior as soon as possible, because once you make a mistake in the real world and you get convicted, it could ruin everything. There's really nothing you could really do to make up for it. Like, if you get convicted of a felony, even if you go to college, you get a degree, they don't even care. They're not even going to care about the degree anymore. They're just going to look at you and see, look at you as a felon. They're going to focus on the felony that you committed, not on the degree that you've obtained. So basically, if you're ever in that situation where you got something in your record that just won't disappear, that's holding you back from gaining something like a worthwhile employment, it's almost forcing you to create your own job opportunities, to become an entrepreneur, so that you don't need to be dependent on others to hire you, but then basically you employ yourself. But it's another learning lesson is just to see that not every quote-unquote criminal is a bad person. It's just that I see that the system is set up, to clearly go against the people that are poor. If you're poor and you don't have much money, they could throw you in jail and ruin the rest of your life in an instant. But if you got a lot of money and people know you, you got all this money, all these lawyers to protect your future. You make a mistake, they'll cover it up. They'll hire a great attorney, tell you to keep your mouth shut, and they'll cover it up, give you another chance. An example is like somebody like O.J. Simpson. You know what I mean? Like, potentially he's responsible for murdering a couple of people, but because he had so much money, he had good lawyers, and he was intelligent enough not to admit that he did it, he ended up getting away with it. He ended up becoming free. It's like the rich people get a second chance. Not just a second chance, but a lot of times more than just 2 chances. They get like 20 chances, 30 chances, 50 chances. But a poor person doesn't have the lawyers to defend them, doesn't have the money to protect himself. You can make one mistake and it could ruin the rest of your life. So that's something that gets me to see. And I feel bad for the people in the situation. I feel bad for the people that have mental struggles, that are mentally challenged. And I guess only thing that that you can or I can do to help is just to have compassion for these people. Just to just have compassion, understanding. But you don't know what the solution is, because people that have mental issues, you can't just throw them in the hot. First, they don't got money. If they got mental issues, then they don't have money. You can't just throw them in the hospital and have a doctor treat them because the doctor needs to get paid. So they can't do that. The school system is there to help these people, but once they're not of school age anymore, they get thrown out into this world, and the hospitals can't help because they don't have money. It's almost like the jail is there to house people that are mentally ill, where they don't need to worry about going to work or contributing to society. The government, the system is just there to feed them and house them and just basically separate them from the average people out there. So it's just like another separation. So just like in school, there's like the regular class and then there's a special needs class. In the adult life, it's like you got the regular class of people who are engaged in the working world, who are considered quote unquote free. And then you have the people that are mentally ill or mentally challenged that are thrown in these jail systems and separated from those people that are quote unquote free. But if you analyze the situation even further, is it really freedom for the people in the working world? Especially if they got a job of which they don't like. They're going to work 40 hours a week or more, engaged in a job that they hate. They come home, they go to sleep, and when you're sleeping, it doesn't matter if you're sleeping in a mansion or you're sleeping in a jail cell, your eyes are closed, you're unconscious, you're not going to know the difference when you're sleeping. They wake up, they eat their food, they take their showers. If they got friends, they might be able to hang out with their friends and family. If they got lovers, they get to be intimate with their lovers. But the person in jail, they got food to eat. Their food might not be as high quality. They got a place to sleep. They might not even have to work. They just sit in their jail cell. They don't even have to work that much. And they're not allowed to be intimate with those of the opposite of sex because they're just not available. And that to them is considered misery. But at the same token, people out there in the working world who are not in jail, there's a lot of people that have a very difficult time finding a lover themselves, and then they're in misery as well. So a lot of times I feel the people that are in the working world are not truly free. There's a lot of people that are in as much misery as the people that are in the jail. So the people that are in jail, they know they're in jail. They know that their freedom is taken away. But then there's people that are not in jail that think that they are free, but then they're not really free. They're actually in jail as well. But their jail is just a little bit different. It's an illusion of freedom. And then there are the individuals that are truly free. So I see that there's different categories. But I think it's interesting to speak to the people that have gone to jail and have experienced it. I've seen a lot of movies where they try to share a part of that experience with you, and you try to learn from the movies. But then talking to somebody that's actually been to jail, it could be, you could gain a greater understanding. But this is something that I clearly would not want to experience myself. But when you speak to somebody that has experienced it, you can kind of make that experience a part of you. So then you could make better decisions in your own life to not be put in that same situation. So I think there's a lot that could be learned from people that have experienced this type of struggle in life. Like, I feel there's a lot more for me to learn from somebody like this individual who shared with me his experiences of being in jail. There's a lot for me to learn from him than even going to a professor. Because a professor is just basically regurgitating fixed knowledge of which you could just find all over the books, all over the internet. It's nothing special. But when you speak to somebody who's actually gone to jail and experienced what it's like, it's going to be a unique experience for every single individual and a different experience for every individual. And when you speak to these individuals and you gain an understanding of their experiences, it could help you make some better decisions in your own life, so then you do not find yourself in the same situation. Another thing that it gets me to think about is just also how important it is to control your sex energy. Because based on that person's experiences, it was this sex energy that got him in trouble. You know, being attracted and in love with a woman that didn't feel the same way about him. She ended up calling the police on him and getting him put in jail. You know, somebody that even know, ended up getting in a confrontation with her lover, and then he ended up shooting her. She lived, but then he ended up going to jail. It's like, when it comes to this sex energy, it can make or break us. And if you don't control it properly, it could really get you in a lot of trouble. So another example is somebody who just sleeps with a lot of women, gets all these different women pregnant, and then all these women could just end up taking the individual to court for child support. And then the courts and the police officers could be chasing this individual everywhere he goes, so then he would pay child support. Say you end up having a lot of kids, and then you don't really raise the kids properly. One of the kids ends up getting hurt, or ends up shooting and killing himself by accident. And then as the father, you become responsible, and then they put you in jail for child endangerment. Say you're with a woman and you're in love, and then she ends up cheating on you, you go into rage, you beat her up, her lover, then you end up in jail. Or you kill her, or you kill her lover, then you end up in jail for murder. I mean, the sex energy can result in an immense amount of anger. It could develop a lot of jealousy. It can make you do some crazy things, and if you're already not mentally stable and you're already mentally challenged, then it could result in like devastation. Even some of these mass murderers, there's some instances where people, they're just mentally not there, and then a girl breaks their heart, and then all of a sudden they go on a killing spree because they're so depressed. Like this sex energy that we have is a very potent energy that's very powerful. And if you don't learn how to control this energy, it can result in your destruction. And that's something that we all need to be aware of.